And this week's chapter is called Made to Order. It's about writing for hire. And it starts going way back. You probably have heard of the famous Tin Pan Alley, going back more than 100 years. And you may have wondered where the name came from, a pan being American for what we call a saucepan. And here's an explanation. Why were the railroad flats around 28th and Broadway called Tin Pan Alley? Monroe Rosenfield wrote a series of comic articles about the new business for the New York Herald and thought up the collective title Tin Pan Alley. The publishing houses were clustered on top of each other. Every window was open. Almost every room had an upright piano playing. The babel of different embryonic tunes, all being played at once in the song factory, must have struck Rosenfield as reminiscent of tin pans being clashed. And going again way back, Stephen Foster. Stephen Foster was the first American songwriter to receive royalties. Irving Berlin, after he'd become rich and famous in the 1910s, had a nicely framed picture of Foster hanging in his office. But Foster otherwise appears to have been a bit namby-pamby. One moment he doesn't want his name on Old Folks at Home because he's ashamed of the minstrel show stigma. The next moment, when it's a hit, he wants his name printed in boldface. Ed Christie, the minstrel who'd plugged the song into popularity, called him a vacillating skunk. Going a bit later, Elvis Costello talking about early rock and roll. Early rock and roll songs weren't all written by hillbillies. A lot of them were really crafted. All the Lieber and Stoller things rhyme really well. They never accommodate a 3-syllable word rhyming with a 2-syllable word. They never add extra bars or extra beats. Everything's exact. And that was true for the whole tradition of songwriting from the 30s, except for it was obviously done for effect, like Cole Porter's. And two quite similar reminiscences of those sort of songwriting factory environments, but from later. Barry Mann says it was insane. Cynthia Weil and I would be in this tiny cubicle about the size of a closet with just a piano and a chair, no windows or anything. We'd go in every morning and we'd write songs all day. In the next room, Carole King and Jerry Goffin would be doing the same thing. Sometimes when we all got to banging on our pianos, you couldn't tell who was playing what. Similarly, Tom Waits. That's why those Brill Building guys were such an exciting period. They were in a building where the walls were thin and they could hear music coming in from different rooms. They were being influenced by just being there. There are still rooms like that in Manhattan where you can rehearse. You rent a room for $8 an hour, a little room the size of a bathroom with a piano in it. And if you just sit there quietly, you can hear everything from Schoenberg to Sugar Babies. It's exciting. Ian Thomas reflecting a bit. The For Hire label carries some interesting baggage. Some artists are offended by any terminology that involves money. This could be why so many artists get ripped off by people who are ever so eager to take care of those disgusting areas. And then, of course, we scream rape. If songs were children, we parents might be more concerned for their well-being. After all, as soon as someone listens to your work, you've been hired, in a sense, if only for a brief moment. I have no problem with the concept of writing for money, as I have this annoying little habit called eating. Buffy St. Marie, it's very difficult but challenging to write for a market other than one's own heart. To write a song for a movie feels a little bit like being an actress. You pretend to be someone else and then be true to that point of view. Katie Moffat, writing for a marketplace must work for those who have the same sensibilities. Okay, misphrased. Writing for a marketplace must work for those who have the same sensibilities as people who buy in that marketplace. The more common, the more successful. You figure it out. And finally, Tim Thorney. A lot of people have asked me, what comes first, the music or the lyric? In my case, more often than not, it's the phone call.